The restaurant's soft lighting usually made me feel elegant, sophisticated. Tonight, it just highlighted the tension radiating from across the table. Mark, my boyfriend of 2 years, had a peculiar smirk playing on his lips as he handed the waiter his card. We were celebrating our anniversary, or so I thought. The waiter returned, an almost imperceptible frown on his face, and quietly murmured something to Mark. Mark's smirk widened. "Seems my card was downgraded," he announced, his voice just a touch too loud, designed to carry. "Guess we're not ordering that last bottle of Cabernet, are we, darling?" He looked at me, a challenge in his eyes, as if this was some grand test of my loyalty to his struggling artist persona. I knew, and he knew I knew, that his trust fund was anything but struggling. This was a power play, a public humiliation masked as a minor inconvenience. My cheeks burned. I could feel the stares, or imagined them, from the other tables. The clinking of cutlery, the hushed conversations. Everything seemed to amplify Mark's smug satisfaction. But then I caught the waiter's eye. He was young, probably not much older than me, and I saw a flicker of something there. Not pity, but understanding. Maybe even a shared exasperation. He cleared his throat, ready to offer an alternative, but I cut him off. "It's perfectly fine," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside me. I reached for my own purse, a vintage clutch I'd inherited from my grandmother. Mark's eyebrows shot up. He hadn't expected me to have my own resources, not after his subtle, continuous efforts to make me feel dependent on him. He'd always chuckled about my little savings account. "Oh, Mark, you truly underestimated me." My fingers closed around the crisp $100 bills I'd withdrawn earlier, meant for a spontaneous weekend getaway. A getaway I now realized I'd rather take alone. I pulled out 5 of them, neatly folded. The waiter's eyes widened almost imperceptibly as I placed them on the table. Not subtly, not discreetly. They were right there, next to Mark's hand, which was still resting possessively on his downgraded card. "Here," I said, pushing the bills towards the waiter. "This is for you. And please add the Cabernet to our tab after all. I believe it's on me tonight." I didn't look at Mark. I looked directly at the waiter, and in his eyes, I saw it. An unspoken agreement, a silent nod of approval. He took the money, a slight, genuine smile touching his lips. My spontaneous weekend getaway turned into an unscheduled detour. Instead of a beach resort, my instincts and a quick search on my phone led me to a small, charming guest house nestled in the mountains, far from any familiar faces or reminders of Mark. The air was crisp, scented with pine, and the only sounds were the whisper of the wind and the distant chirping of crickets. It was exactly what I needed. The first day was a blur of long walks, silent introspection, and surprisingly good food from the guesthouse's kitchen. I hiked a winding trail that led to a breathtaking overlook, the valley stretching out beneath me like a vast green blanket. Up there, with the sun on my face and the wind in my hair, I felt an unfamiliar lightness. It wasn't just the absence of Mark, it was the presence of myself, untethered and unburdened. For the first time in years, my mind felt like a blank canvas, ready for whatever I chose to paint on it. Lena didn't gasp or offer pity. She just nodded, her eyes understanding. "Sometimes," she said, her voice soft, "the most expensive lessons are the ones that truly set us free." Her words resonated deeply within me, a quiet affirmation of everything I was feeling. Would you like to hear about the realization I had during that trip, or what happened when I returned home? On the second evening, as I was enjoying a cup of herbal tea on the guesthouse's veranda, a woman approached me. She had kind eyes and a warm smile, and she introduced herself as Lena, the owner of the guesthouse. We started talking, and soon hours had melted away. She told me stories of her life, of leaving the city behind to build this peaceful retreat, and of the joy she found in helping others find their own quiet moments of clarity. She didn't pry, she just listened, and for some reason, I found myself telling her about the dinner, the downgrade, and the $500 tip. As I sat there with Lena, the mountain air cool on my skin, a profound realization settled over me. It wasn't just about Mark and his petty attempts to control me. It was about how long I had allowed myself to be diminished, to shrink my own light to fit into someone else's shadow. The downgrade at dinner wasn't just about a credit card. It was a metaphor for how I had allowed my own worth to be downgraded in the relationship. The $500 wasn't just a tip. It was an investment in my own freedom, a tangible declaration that my self-worth was not up for negotiation. Lena's guesthouse, with its quiet strength and serene beauty, felt like a catalyst. It wasn't about escaping, but about rediscovering. I spent the rest of my time there not dwelling on the past, but envisioning the future. I felt a surge of creative energy I hadn't felt in years, an urge to paint, to write, to simply create. The blank canvas of my mind was no longer blank. It was teeming with vibrant colors and bold strokes. Returning home was different than I expected. The city didn't feel as overwhelming. The familiar streets didn't bring a wave of sadness. Instead, there was a sense of calm determination. My apartment, once a place I shared, now felt like my own sanctuary. I cleared out the remnants of Mark's presence, not with anger, but with a quiet sense of closure. Every item I packed away or donated felt like shedding a layer of an old skin. The first thing I did was buy a new set of art supplies. The second was to call my best friend, whom I'd neglected during my relationship with Mark. I told her everything, and instead of pity, I found unwavering support and shared laughter. The lightness I felt in the mountains had followed me home. Rebuilding my life felt less like an arduous task and more like an exciting project. I invested in myself, not with money this time, but with time and energy. I enrolled in a local art class, something I'd always wanted to do but had put off. The studio, filled with the scent of turpentine and the quiet hum of creativity, became my new sanctuary. I started painting again, not for anyone else's approval, but for the sheer joy of it. Each stroke of the brush felt like reclaiming a part of myself. Weeks turned into a month. Life had a new rhythm, one that was entirely my own. Then my phone rang. It was an unknown number, and for a moment I almost didn't answer. Curiosity, however, got the better of me. "Hello," I said, a slight hesitation in my voice. "Is this the woman who tipped the waiter $500? A man's voice, warm and a little hesitant, came through the line. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't Mark. It was the waiter. He apologized for calling, explaining that he'd found my number on the reservation after recognizing my name when processing the tip. He just wanted to say thank you again, and that the tip had come at the perfect time. His grandmother's medical bills were piling up. He also mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that he'd quit his job at that restaurant a week later. The manager, apparently, hadn't been too happy about the excessive tip and the subsequent scene, as he put it. We talked for a long time that evening, about his dreams of opening his own small farm-to-table restaurant, and about my rediscovered passion for art. It was easy, comfortable, and surprisingly refreshing. There was a genuine connection, free from any pretense or power plays. Our conversations continued, evolving from late-night calls to coffee meetups, then to shared meals at cozy independent cafes. A stark contrast to the sterile environment of that fateful anniversary dinner. His name was Daniel, and he had a quiet strength, a genuine passion for food, and an infectious optimism that was truly captivating. We talked about everything and nothing, discovering shared values and a surprising number of common interests, beyond just our individual creative pursuits. One evening, as we were sharing a pizza at a small family-owned Italian place, Daniel looked at me, a warm smile in his eyes. "You know," he said, "that $500 wasn't just a tip for me. It was a kickstart. It gave me the courage to finally leave that place and really start planning my own restaurant." He reached across the table and gently took my hand. "And meeting you? Well, that's been a pretty amazing kickstart too." My art, fueled by this new sense of freedom and connection, flourished. My paintings became bolder, more vibrant, reflecting the newfound joy and confidence in my life. I started showcasing my work at local art fairs, And to my surprise, my pieces began to sell. The extra income wasn't the main point, but the validation was exhilarating. The act of creating, once a quiet hobby, had transformed into a profound expression of self. One day, I received an email from a gallery owner who had seen my work at a fair. She was interested in featuring my paintings in a solo exhibition. I read the email several times, a wide smile spreading across my face. It felt surreal, like a dream I hadn't even dared to fully articulate. Life had truly come full circle. From the humiliation of a downgraded card to the triumph of a solo art exhibition, from a controlling relationship to a blossoming connection with a kind and supportive man, the journey had been unexpected and transformative. The $500 tip, once an impulsive act of defiance, had become a pivotal moment, a symbol of reclaiming my worth and setting myself free. It was the most satisfying investment I had ever made. The night of my solo art exhibition was a whirlwind of emotions. The gallery buzzed with people, their voices a low hum of admiration and curiosity. My paintings, which felt so intensely personal during their creation, now hung under the bright lights, exposed to the world. And they were being seen. Friends, family, and even a few art critics mingled, champagne flutes clinking. Daniel was by my side, a steady, reassuring presence, his pride in me radiating. He introduced me to potential buyers, effortlessly weaving my story into the context of my art. It was a dream made real. As I was talking to a small group about the inspiration behind one of my larger abstract pieces, I felt a distinct shift in the room's energy. A hush, almost imperceptible, fell over a corner of the gallery. My gaze drifted, and there he was, Mark. He stood awkwardly by the entrance, dressed in a slightly too tight suit, a bewildered expression on his face as he scanned the room. Our eyes met across the space, and for a fleeting moment, all the noise of the gallery faded. He looked different, smaller somehow. The smugness that had been a permanent fixture on his face was gone, replaced by something resembling bewilderment, perhaps even a hint of regret. He was no longer the man who had tried to diminish me, but a ghost from a past life, standing in the bright light of my present success. I didn't acknowledge him with a nod or a smile. I simply held his gaze for a moment longer, a silent acknowledgement of how far I had come. There was no anger, no triumph, just a quiet sense of closure. He was a closed chapter in my book, and I had turned the page long ago. He eventually turned and slipped out of the gallery, disappearing into the night as quietly as he had arrived. The encounter was brief, almost anticlimactic, but it solidified everything. The downgraded dinner, the $500 tip, the mountain retreat, Daniel, my art. It all culminated in this moment. I was no longer the person who had been made to feel small. I was the artist, the woman who had walked out, and then walked into her own vibrant future. Life as a full-time artist was everything I dreamed of and more. My days were no longer dictated by someone else's schedule or expectations. I woke with the sun, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the faint aroma of paints from my studio. Inspiration struck at unexpected moments. A vibrant sunset, the way light filtered through the leaves of a tree, or a fleeting emotion. My art became a dialogue between my inner world and the outer one, and the more I painted, the more I understood myself. My solo exhibition had opened doors, leading to commissions, invitations to other galleries, and even a feature in a national art magazine. It wasn't always easy. There were days of creative blocks and the inevitable administrative tasks of running my own business. But even the challenges felt empowering, each hurdle overcome a testament to my resilience. My relationship with Daniel deepened with each passing month. He was, in so many ways, the antithesis of Mark. There was no pretense, no games, just genuine support and an unwavering belief in me. He cheered on my successes and offered a quiet presence during my moments of doubt. His dream of opening his own farm-to-table restaurant was slowly taking shape, and it was a joy to witness his passion firsthand, just as he witnessed mine. We often spent evenings brainstorming ideas for his menu or discussing the layout of his future kitchen, our ambitions intertwining. We discovered a shared love for exploring, for finding hidden gems in our city and venturing out on weekend trips to discover new landscapes. These weren't grand, performative gestures, but quiet, meaningful moments of connection. With Daniel, I felt seen, valued, and loved for exactly who I was, imperfections and all. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Daniel and I were walking through a bustling farmer's market hand in hand, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a storefront window. I saw a woman radiating quiet confidence, her eyes bright with purpose. The past felt distant, a necessary prelude to this vibrant present. The downgrade at dinner, the $500 tip. They had been the turning point, a catalyst for a life I wouldn't trade for anything. I was rich, not in the way Mark had understood it, but in a far more profound sense. I was rich in freedom, in creativity, in love, and in the unwavering knowledge of my own worth. And that, I realized, was the most valuable currency of all. Months later, the dream Daniel had meticulously cultivated finally materialized. His restaurant, the Hearthstone, opened its doors to a vibrant fanfare. It was everything he had envisioned. Cozy, inviting, with a tantalizing aroma of fresh, locally sourced ingredients wafting from the open kitchen. I had contributed a large abstract piece for the main dining area, a swirling canvas of warm colors that perfectly complemented the rustic elegance of the space. Months later, the dream Daniel had meticulously cultivated finally materialized. His restaurant, the Hearthstone, opened its doors to a vibrant fanfare. It was everything he had envisioned. Cozy, inviting, with a tantalizing aroma of fresh, locally sourced ingredients wafting from the open kitchen. I had contributed a large abstract piece for the main dining area, a swirling canvas of warm colors that perfectly complemented the rustic elegance of the space. The opening night was a resounding success. Friends, family, and a stream of eager foodies filled every table. Daniel, beaming with a pride that matched my own at my exhibition, moved gracefully through the bustling room, a natural host. Seeing him thrive, pursuing his passion with such dedication, filled me with an overflowing sense of joy. We had both, in our own ways, built something beautiful and authentic from the ashes of past disappointments. My journey as an artist didn't just enrich my own life. It became a platform to inspire others. I started receiving messages from women who had heard my story, either through the magazine feature or word of mouth. They shared their own experiences of feeling undervalued, of putting their dreams on hold for others. I began leading small workshops, not just on painting techniques, but on creative empowerment, encouraging participants to use art as a tool for self-discovery and reclaiming their voice. I spoke about the downgrade at dinner, not as a tale of victimhood, but as a turning point, a moment of profound clarity. I shared how a single decisive act, fueled by self-respect, had unlocked a future I hadn't even dared to imagine. It wasn't about the money. It was about the courage to walk away and the faith to walk towards something better. Now, as I sit in my sunlit studio, the scent of oil paint in the air, I often reflect on that night. The humiliation, the anger, the silent defiance. They all played a part in shaping who I am today. The $500 tip wasn't just a spontaneous act. It was the first brushstroke on a new canvas, the initial investment in a life rich with purpose, passion, and genuine connection. It taught me that true wealth isn't measured in what you have, but in who you are, and the courage you find to live authentically. My story, I hope, isn't just about walking out of a restaurant. It's about walking into a life.